Hey guys, welcome to the still unnamed podcast. I might use that as the name, thinking about it now. Today we have on Patrick Serda. He wins all the monies at poker. I think he's won like an EPT for like a milli plus or something versus William Kassouf. He's won like a 10K W Coupe this year. And he travels a lot and is into crypto and real estate, and I think food. Maybe not. I think I remember he's like
Definitely a lot of food.
Alright, so definitely get into that. So yeah, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, I'm kind of curious of like where you got your start in poker. How'd you get into poker?
I was definitely part of the moneymaker boom. I definitely started playing when I was probably 16, 17 with friends, and then just played a bunch of free rolls on full tilt back in the day. I think as I got a little bit older, kind of branched out into starting to take it a little bit more seriously. Unfortunately, I missed the boat. I'm 27. I'm not. I didn't get to make all the money during the moneymaker boom.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had to work a little bit harder. But kind of as I started to go to university, I realized that I was kind of making a little bit of money playing poker on the side. Um, and yeah, it just kind of obviously it was definitely an obsession for a little while with me. I put in a lot of playing hours, and I used to struggle a lot with obviously bankroll management, as anybody would in the early days when we just like didn't know anything about variance. I feel like there was like so many nights where just be a constant depositor, and then just like have run it up, cash out, rinse and repeat over and over. But that was kind of my start, and then there was a couple of home games around in my city where we played, not really big, kind of about 25, 50 cent games, and would play there kind of maybe once a week. And that's kind of how things got started. And then I think at about 22, I had kind of my first like real score. I ended up winning a live tournament, local casino for about 40,000. And after that, went down to Minneapolis the next weekend and final tabled one of the MSPT events. And shortly after that, took third in like a really big scoop for over 100, and the rest is kind of history. Everything kind of just fell into place after that.
How
Definitely
long
been
ago
on
was
my
that?
fair share of downswings.
How long ago was that?
That would have been 2012. So everything would have happened. April of 2012 is probably when I would have won the live bird, and then scoop that year would have been in May, at the end of May.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, so during all this, I've kind of always held a job. I still work at a restaurant, serve pizza and wine. I love it, but poker has kind of just been the focus the last little while.
You still have a job?
I still do have a job. I still wait tables and pour really expensive wines for people.
That's
It's not that often. It's maybe once or twice a week when I'm in town. They're really nice and flexible about me taking time off.
right.
So that's a little bit of like the backstory. I went to university. I finished. I was
I have to
continue.
stop because why do you do it?
Why do I do it?
Yeah, the
I
restaurant.
think it creates like a little bit of a sense of normality in my life. There's just not a lot of people in my city that play poker or do anything remotely close to what I do for a living. Um, there are some guys that play live for a living here, but it's definitely just not on the same scale as me.
Right.
And I think it gives me a decent appreciation for some of the money that I play for in some situations, which can, I guess, be both good and bad, but I think it's a good thing.
Right.
I also enjoy the social aspect. I really like pizza and I really like wine, so both kind of fit into my interests.
Right. There's a social aspect to being a waiter. I kind of always
Yeah,
felt like a
definitely. There's a lot of interaction with complete strangers that I guess a lot of people in today's world just lose out on because of all their interactions just not being person to person. Um, I really enjoy that. I also enjoy finishing and feeling like I've made somebody else's day a little bit better. Um, there's definitely some satisfaction when I know someone's enjoying something that I enjoy and giving back a little bit, not exactly giving back to the community, but giving back at least into some of my social circles.
right. And what makes what makes someone like a good waiter? Like, what have you learned over the years of doing that?
I think just attention to detail is one of the um, first things that you have to learn really quickly. Obviously, there's like a fixed skill set that you should have, such as product knowledge. Should be able to, just manage time very well on a given day where you have a lot of things going on. Very good multitasker. And I think a lot of that also translates to playing lots of poker tables sometimes.
Right.
Being able to, do a couple things or think about more than one thing at once is definitely a great skill.
That's really cool. I'm really surprised you have like a real job because I imagine you just give zero fucks about like the money. Although I imagine you can make
Yeah,
like
the money aspect is like it's still really good money for the amount of hours, and it's not insignificant, but it's pretty null compared to obviously some of the money that I've played for or won. But definitely when I've gone on, I think I went on like a year and a half downswing, where I went like I basically lost like most of my liquid roll, which would have been probably about 130, 140K.
hmm,
And obviously just had money locked up in some places where I wish I didn't have, but um, having that steady job, and you learn to be a little bit better with money. I definitely didn't have. I don't anymore for sure have all the spews that I used to have. I definitely do still spend money on things such as dinners, but that I think just falls into what I enjoy spending my money on. Whereas I think a lot of people will go out to clubs and spend lots of money at clubs, and that's just not what I am interested in doing. So
uh yeah, I don't mind spending a lot. I don't mind if I feel like it's okay if people spend a lot of money on dinners if they really appreciate food and all that. And I feel the same way about cars and clothes and all that.
yeah, I would agree. I think it ranks into a level of happiness that it creates for me. And am I going to be really, really happy when I have this, or if I have this experience? And if the answer is yes, then usually whatever like the going rate for that experience is what I'm happy to pay for it. That's something that I've kind of realized, is that a couple things that I definitely do spend a lot of money on are experiences and convenience. Um, I'll pay, if I'm playing a Sunday and I like really want a certain type of food, like if someone's going to deliver it for me, I will pay them. Or if I need to land at a certain airport and don't want to have a 4 hour layover, but it's say $400 more. Theoretically, that's $100 an hour, but I'm still going to pay for that earlier flight if that is what's convenient to me. I've just kind of figured out at least a formula in my head where this is what this time is worth to me in this situation, and it's not always monetary, it's also comfort and convenience, and I'm super happy to pay for that.
So, is it fair to say you just kind of put like a high price on your time and not, just not wanting to spend 4 hours at the, like spending, having that extra time to not be at the airport is just worth quite a lot to you?
It is, yeah. I definitely value my time a lot, and I think that money is the first thing that kind of allows you to have more of your own time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's not buying happiness, but it's allowing you to buy time to do things that make you happy. And so, if I wanted to stay inside all day and play poker and push, 10-15% edges and, feel like I made $800 instead of like $400 in a day, then, great. There are people that want to do that, but it's just not going to be me. I just value other things more. And yeah,
Right.
I think I've just found a much better balance in these last few years.
What drives you to still like want to keep grinding after you have enough money to live? I mean, I imagine you're fairly good with finance and stuff, and you can live off the money you have for quite a while with like, and be like, I mean, make enough interest off the money passively, or make enough money passively to not really have to play. So like, what's driving you to still grind? And I assume you study and do all that.
Yeah, so I still do a fair amount of studying. Actually, if any poker players listen to this podcast, if there's one that you should go listen to, it's probably Joe Ingram's with Oh Hey Cindy, and he released one where he actually gives away like so much strategy information
Really?
about today's game. At least like how to properly approach it. And like I when I listened to it, I got like really mad because I think his approach is very similar to what I've been doing the last probably 6 to 8 months. Um, but I think it's still a challenge for me, and I've always
Wait,
enjoyed.
what's the guy's name? Like, how do I
Uh,
Google it?
it's Joe Ingram's most recent podcast. He's Oh Hey Cindy. He used to post as Turbulence on 2+2.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be able to find it. It's like most recent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't miss it. The kid's like 24 years old and like curly haired, and he he's really he has a lot of the same thoughts that I have about today's current game, and I think that he also is going through a phase in his life where he might be enjoying himself a lot, and I think he's like going about it the right way. I actually think that he's like an extremely bright human, even though some people might not agree with all his like decisions, but I think he's quite happy. So yeah, I actually think it's a really good podcast. I think it was one of the better ones I've listened to in a while.
I'm definitely gonna check it out just for the strategy.
Yeah, the first like hour and 15 minutes, and just like his views, and like he goes into like not wanting to say like why he thinks certain things and whatever, but like he basically gives it away anyways. Like it's really easy to deduce what he's thinking, or like what his interpretation of like certain players in his player pool are. And he's the guy that plays like 50, 100 no limit on stars.
Okay.
So he's playing with all the best guys, but he's great. Yeah. But back to what I think motivates me still. Obviously, I'm not motivated to wake up on like a Wednesday and play the Big 55, the Big 109,
Right.
and like the Battle Royale. Like I just like I'm not excited about playing those things. But obviously, when it comes down to playing bigger tournaments and playing for larger sums, I feel like, I guess in my history, I've done fairly well playing in tough fields. I also really enjoy the more relaxed nature live, especially in bigger games. I've played fairly large cash this past year. I played really big this summer. I played like 10 and quarter 50, 50, 100 sometimes. I didn't run great in the bigger games. I ran really good at some of the smaller games. I had a little bit of a tough summer at cash, but everything else went really well. So
So basically, you kind of just play games you enjoy, and those are generally just like the bigger games.
yeah, I mean, there are times where I will sit in smaller games with friends, and there'll be like ideas or concepts I want to try out, but even by that I'm playing like 5-10 usually, trying to not play lower than that because it's pretty hard to focus. But yeah, something in the last year for sure that I've noticed is that if I play whenever I just feel like playing, I'm having way better results. I don't feel like I have to play every Sunday anymore. I don't feel like I have to, play every single W Coop. And actually, this 10K was a little bit of a surprise this past month, or yeah, I guess last month. So I was actually in Montreal visiting a friend on my way to New York, and stopped in Montreal to play the World Cup of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a $2,200 buy-in. Montreal Party Poker put it on. It was great. So played day one on Saturday, and the goal was to bag day one so I could play day one, so I didn't have to play the next day one on Sunday, so I could play online. And I think it worked out to be Sunday. I'm pretty sure it was. And so, anyways, found the bag thankfully for like 1.5 million from 1 million starting, and was playing Sunday. And I remember, like, I didn't have that much in my Stars account at the time, and had a friend ship me. I think I was like $450 or $500 short to play the Last Chance Satellite into the 10K, and I wasn't planning on playing it until I kind of saw what some of the field was starting to look like, and I thought that there was like a lot of people taking shots for some reason that I like didn't think were maybe some of the better players currently. And then I also realized that Poker Masters was running, so the top like 40, maybe 30 guys were in Vegas.
Right.
Which is going to be like a huge EV boost. Like if those, even if like 20 of those guys play, I might not be a winner in that field.
Right.
But because so many of the top players weren't there, obviously it was a much better situation, and I ended up getting in. I came back from like 1.5 big blinds.
You won a satellite
to like ship the seat. Yeah, and then I just remember from the start, everything on day one went really smooth. I just had like really good table draws. I had people like making really big timing and sizing mistakes. I just like, I don't understand how people play a 10K online and then they're playing like 12 other tables. Like it just makes no sense to me.
I think it's very arrogant.
It's like I was playing like 4 tables max, and it's just I understand not wanting to play the 10K because your EV is higher playing 12 other like smaller tournaments, and you're just like basically getting your EV that way. But it was quite shocking actually, especially early on, because people think that there's just like no edge to be had early on, but I think that everyone plays just pretty terrible. Especially like 80 big blinds and more. People's ranges just haven't really adjusted or changed.
Right.
Obviously, some of the best guys play differently, but usually people either overcompensate or undercompensate.
Yeah, I feel like I would guess that you have like pretty big edge. Like your biggest edge might come from like the deeper stack play rather than like. I mean, I don't know your game that well anymore, but I feel like
Yeah, I'm much nittier than I used to be.
I assumed I didn't think you'd be crushing with.
Yeah, after going on like 130k downswing, you kind of have to reevaluate some things and just like finding that cold 5 bet spot is not the spot to be taking very often anymore.
Right.
Um,
I remember like every coaching session just being like going over spots where you spew, just being
yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
use the sand. No, use the sand.
yeah. I think my hand selection is like pretty top notch now. Like I'm just not doing it with too many spew spots. Obviously, there's if you go over the hand history with me later, you'll see some spots where I just like cold forward the ace 7 off because I had a timing tell, got flatted, got a king high board, and basically just barreled off because he can never have ace king and I can.
Right.
And good luck trying to call off in a 10k with worse than top pair. So there was a couple spots like that where I obviously just like went for it, but I also had the chips to do it.
Right.
Yeah, so back to the tournament. I guess day one went really well. I bagged like a fairly large chip lead, and then I sold some equity off at 110k or 115k stack evaluation.
Okay.
Just to reduce some variance. Obviously, locking up 11k is never a bad thing when
So,
we're still not
so
in the money, even
how
though
does
we were
that
one away.
how does that work? So you ended with like,
I ended with 1.2 million from 50k starting,
okay,
and so we basically it's really hard to kind of calculate a chip leader's edge,
right,
but we kind of came to the valuation that I would need to have finished better than sixth for the guy that bought the piece to make money.
okay,
And there were 32 left. The field actually looked fairly like soft at the time still. Like there was definitely still some very good players, but I thought it was one of the softer fields remaining,
mm-hmm.
especially with how some of the chip distribution went.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we kind of agreed on. I think I can't remember if it was 110 or 115, but agreed on that and sold 10% off then. So found the bag, and so then came to the realization that
Oh,
I now have to play 2-day twos.
right, right,
So day two in Montreal started at 5 p.m. and the tournament restarted at 3. So I kind of had to figure out what I was going to be doing.
right,
Sorry, the tournament actually restarted at 1, the 10K, and the Montreal 2K restarted at 5. So there was a good 4-hour gap.
mm-hmm.
So thankfully, brought my laptop and everything I needed over to Playground and got on to the Poker News Wi-Fi instead of just the public one.
Oh, nice.
Shout out to Poker News for letting me use their Wi-Fi. Thank you. But ended up sitting, and as kind of the day progressed, I ran really pure in some pretty big spots. I just remember this one spot where this guy, I opened, he 3-bet, and we were 44 big blinds deep, and there was maybe 2 tables left, and I had kings, and I had just kind of played back at him a bunch kind of throughout the day, and it's really hard to say, but you just kind of have that feeling where he has value and he's never folding.
Yeah.
So just decided to rip in instead of potentially do something else. And obviously he snaps with queens, and just everything kind of went my way.
That's fun.
I had with 14 players left, I was the only player above average.
Whoa.
I was the only player above average until that we were 3-handed.
So you just had huge
I
chipping.
actually just had all the chips the entire tournament.
Jesus.
And when there was like 10, 11 people left, I just got into like so many great ICM shove spots where like I just got to shove 100% from like the cutoff, the button, the small blind, and under the gun, I think, and just like nobody could call. Um,
Yeah, I
there,
mean, it's such an insane ICM spot because everyone you're so far ahead and they're all so even.
everybody was so close, and I just got to like start piling. So I went from like I think 6 million with 14 left to about 8.5, which is a lot of chips in
Yeah,
this tournament.
right.
Um,
Like 2.5 million extras probably would have made you chip leader anyways,
yeah, yeah. The next closest person I think had like 1.7 million.
right?
So like it wasn't even really close. And then yeah, the final table just kind of everything went super easy. There was one spot where I opened King Seven suited under the gun. And I think we're seven-handed in the spot. And Educa Poker, who's in the big blinds, rips 14 bigs. And I had like 8.2 million, I think, and he had like, I think it was, maybe he ripped like 15 bigs. I think he ripped 620K at 40K big blind.
Hmm.
And I just called off, not really thinking too much because I figured, so like obviously this doesn't look like a great spot right away, but there was a couple things like he's to my direct right, and also two of the better players are to his direct right, and him having chips is not really going to change my equity in the tournament too much, but it's going to affect the two other guys a lot.
Hmm.
So they're not going to be opening up into my button, small blind, big blind as often when I do cut poker has a bunch of chips. So me actually losing chips to him is one of the better results in terms of like where I could be losing chips.
Right.
Even though he probably had one of the bigger skill edges versus the field. So, anyways, yeah, I ended up calling off light in that spot. It also stops people from like shoving too light on me because they know that like they just can't pile like ace 10 off against me and hope that I fold like 9-8 suited. Like
Right.
they're just ICM punting now.
Right. Yeah, I remember like Cal like taking that to extremes and just like calling rejams with absurd hands when he has a stack.
Yeah. And it just stops people from shoving on you, and I think it like does a very good job of it.
Yeah. I think
So, anyways,
psychologically it works really well too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So after, yeah. So as this is all happening, day two in Montreal starts, and the floor staff was actually really nice because I was originally seated in the extra room, which was like in a tent, which didn't have the Poker News Wi-Fi reception.
Uh-huh.
And so after my first table broke, they just like made sure that. So I sat out for the first little while. They just made sure that I got moved to a table inside so that I could,
Oh,
continue to play. So
that's cool.
that was greatly appreciated. And then, yeah, I think sat down and I had Monster Dong to my right in the 2K, and he was like, "Oh, like how's it going?" or whatever, and it's like, "Oh, okay, well, like three-handed in this 10K," and like, yeah, so it was kind of a fun experience, and then I literally just basically told the table, I was like, "I'm gonna peel queens and shove. That's kind of it. Like, I'm not doing anything here, guys."
Right.
And sure enough, like some guy opens under the gun, and like four hands later, I just have kings and shove, and he like doesn't think very long and calls with 2 8s, like found a double, and I'm like, like I don't know what to say. I just like sat out for a little while and focused on heads up and three-handed play, and things went really well. So,
And then you
yeah.
UFT'd the 2K though, I believe.
Sorry.
You final tabled the 2K as well.
Yeah. So after that, ran like pretty okay, I guess, in the 2K. I felt like obviously like deeper in the tournament there was like maybe one or two other players, probably just like one other person that I thought might be like that is as good or better than me. But other than that, I just felt like had a fairly large skill edge over most players, and was pretty happy and able that I was able to exploit that. But I like in terms of like premium holdings, I don't think I like ran exceptionally hot or anything like that. I final tabled it and got seventh, which is whatever. It's not a great result, but it's fine.
I don't know. So for some reason, like, it's only two tabling, but like playing live and like playing live and online at the same time in a tough 10K, like doing well in both just seems like pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the amount of focus from one to the other is, I'm focusing on the 10K a lot more than I am on the 2K at the time. And there's also just like a lot of situations where, I'm not picking up on enough stuff live that I normally would or should be.
Right. Do you do like actual physical tells like live?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's tons. And it's not so much, finding actual like physical tell patterns or like, oh, he bet with his left hand, he's bluffing in this spot. It's more finding patterns and how these patterns change based on certain situations. Um, it's a lot of turn and river decisions that you should start paying attention to, or um, it's just something. There's a lot of information out there that people give off that they either almost no one is doing it intentionally, but yeah, there's definitely like if you do some reading on like body language books and stuff, like I think it instantly makes you a better poker player. And these are some of the things that I still do. Like it's not something that I'm immune to, even though I'm aware of it.
Right.
I think I've definitely like used it to my advantage in some spots, but
So you've read books on body language? Are there any you would
yeah,
actually
I've definitely
recommend?
done some like work on body language. I'm also pretty good friends with Chance, and Chance Corneth is really good at the live tell aspect, and I think he also doesn't get enough credit for being fundamentally sound. Um, I think like when he's playing in tougher games, he's much more fundamentally sound than he would be in playing in like a 2K. So if people see him do something, just crazy or ridiculous in like a 2K or like a 5K rebuy, people just assume that he's being like a spewy idiot, but that's not really the case. Like he just obviously, I think he's really, really good in the live poker scene, and I think he's fundamentally a lot better than people think. But definitely picked up a lot of information just from kind of listening to him talk about certain hands or certain situations. I think the number one thing that people still really give off is bet sizing tells. But I mean, like, it's just something so hard to change in live poker in a lot of people's mindsets, especially if they, only play one or two tournaments every, say month, and they like pick up aces and they're like, oh, I like really want to get value
Right.
because I'm only going to see this hand, one in so many times, like have to try and get the maximum, or, there's situations like that where like people will like river a flush and like my range will never be able to call anything close to pot, but they still bet pot because they rivered a flush.
Right.
And, like people just have this like, yeah, I think just people give away so much information. But it's
Yeah.
it's definitely a different aspect to poker.
Yeah, my problem with tells is that I never like I'm always questioning myself and like I feel like I can never be rigorous with it and know whether either I'm fooling myself or like this is an actual tell. But I guess you just have to put in the hours, basically.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've definitely become more comfortable with after the summer. Like, I played a full summer this year. And I think it was definitely a very large stepping stone to becoming a better live player.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I think it's like the number one thing for online players if they want to play live.
yeah. I also got to room with two incredibly smart people. I roomed with Max Silver and my friend Eric Wazelenko. Obviously, Max Silver, pretty well known person in the
Mm.
poker circles, but my friend Eric used to be a heads up sit and go reg, turned tournament pro now. He also plays a decent amount of cash, so it was great having someone to bounce ideas off of, and we're both pretty big into the live tell Kool-Aid. We both believe in it, so it's good to have those.
Yeah, I mean, when you initially started to dive deep into it, did you find the problem of focusing on tells and thinking about hands, like trying to do both at the same time, like finding that difficult?
Um, I think the percentage of how much I'm giving a live tell versus like what my hand is. I'm still trying to play very close to like fundamentally sound. I'm still not like, it's like, oh, this guy, looked like he wanted to fold and then he like raised really small. I'm not going to just like peel the like nine deuce off and put in a three bet. Like it's not like I'm doing things like that. I'm still trying to play fundamentally sound and pick the right hands. But maybe if I was going to three bet Jack 9 suited in the spot, maybe I'm going to start three betting Jack 8 and Jack 7 suited. Maybe I'm going to start three betting other hands as a bluff a little bit more often. Maybe I'm going to three bet wider for value.
Okay, so it's like small adjustments unless you're super confident in the read.
Exactly, and a lot of the time I think like you win and lose the most money on the river in poker, and being able to make the right river decision is worth infinitely more than being able to make the right pre-flop decision.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And like a lot of like the flop lines, like I want to take in Pio, especially the ones that are closer to neutral, they are really dependent on making calling with the right frequency and betting with the right frequency and doing everything right on the river. It seems.
Yeah, it's also like once you listen to Oh Hey Cindy, like people think they're playing Pio, but they're really just not. Um, like people think they're getting to the river in this situation, but like Pio assumes that everybody else is playing, perfectly, and that's just simply not the case.
Yeah, the, I guess the problem is like, the problem I've ran into is just like, you try and do turn and river analysis, but it's so hard to use like, the node locking for those spots and like backtrack and how that affects everything. And
That's right.
yeah, so it feels kind of like pointless. I'm just like, where am I even getting with this?
And that's part of definitely what I think Pio is good for is teaching you what hands are good barrel hands and what hands are good bluff hands, but I don't think it's necessarily teaching you what hands are good to call with or fold with exactly, because where they are in your range changes a lot with where like a lot of it in live poker especially too is situational based, where is this person capable of bluffing in this spot, or like
Right.
what, like if someone's going to struggle to find bluffs in a spot, even if you're at the top of your range, like if he's struggling to find bluffs and like not value betting thinly, like your hand is just not that strong. And even though Pio says like, oh, you should just always call in this spot, like you can just exploitively fold here, or like there's just a lot of situations that arise where
Yeah.
people aren't using Pio correctly.
I think
Um,
we both view it very similarly. I would guess that you're ahead of me, but I think we're both trying to do the same thing. Like ahead of me
yeah,
with like use of the program. But yeah,
yeah, I think so.
right,
It's not like all the 255 Zoom regs, trying to play their GTO styles, and everyone's quite passive.
right,
And like that's just like that's not good.
right. What I'm
Um,
excited to try to do, what I'm trying to do now is like try to create strategies that are just really difficult to play against based on how I think the population's going to play.
it's exactly, and that's the type of work that like you should be putting in, is really just putting in work against the population and not necessarily theory work. And as the population changes, you just need to change with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, like I ran a hand where it's like, a lot of people work with Pio. You notice like, oh, you always flat, like you almost always flat a flop bet when you're in position, or even like a turn bet. Like, and like the GTO response is like flat 6%, and then I just tweak like, well, this is what this guy's actually gonna do versus my raise, and he's probably gonna c bet a bit wider, and then it's like raise 80%, 87% of your range.
Yeah,
And like the assumptions I'm making, I'm fairly confident that these are good assumptions. So, um,
yeah, exactly. And obviously, like you have it pretty spot on. Like it's good for some things, but it's not the one all end all. And the nice thing about poker is that there's more than one way to win. Um,
that's true. So this is kind of a personal question, but maybe other people are interested. Like, do you think you can travel the live MTT scene and not play cash? Or do you think cash is just mandatory?
um, I think it depends on the festival specifically and how big the buy-ins are.
Yeah.
These guys that travel like the WSOPC circuit
Yeah.
events, like I don't know how they make money.
Right.
Like there's probably like the top like 3% of players might make money.
Right.
Um, I would like guess that most of these guys, if they're not supplementing it with cash, if they're just playing like high rake 560s or 565s, 340s, and like 1675 mains, I would guess that they're like probably not making money, or if they are, it's like super, 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 super small. Other than like maybe 3% of the field that's just making like 125 or 130% ROI in the main, and like crushing every other event for like 100%, even in like turbo fields.
Right.
But for the most part, like pretty impossible. Thankfully, I think in the States, all the WSOP event or WSOPC events are very like beatable because there's good cash. And I think you should at least teach yourself how to play 1, 2, and 2, 5 if you're planning on traveling that circuit. And in terms of the bigger ones, like obviously having being able to play cash and supplement your hourly with cash is really good. It's also going to reduce your variance. Um, I think like this year, I kind of haven't played any Poker Stars events after. What's the last one I played? I guess I played Panama. No, I played Monaco. Sorry, I played Monaco this year. Monaco was my last one. I skipped Barcelona, and I'm not planning on going to Prague. I don't think. Um, it's like a multitude of reasons. One, the rake. Two, Poker Stars just like not really being straightforward with players, and kind of some of the stuff that's going on. Even though I do think they've made some good changes in the last 3 months, I think they kind of ruined it in the last year. Like it really, really went down.
Agreed.
And I think they see that from their numbers. I also really want to support Party Poker. I think Party's doing a lot of great things.
They're awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're, like they don't care about, overlaying in a certain tournament or a satellite or something like that. Like they've hired the right people. They've hired some of the better pros that I think are great for branding, and are also like just generally great, nice people in their communities. Um,
Right. So
and I've had great times in all of the party poker stops so far. I think some of their scheduling might or could use a little bit of work, but I think that in general just needs work in the poker industry. I think scheduling is really atrocious everywhere other than Vegas. I think Vegas is like the only place in the entire world that they somehow just have scheduling down perfectly. The WSOP releases their schedule, then the Venetian and Encore, I don't know if they collude or not, but it seems like they just time theirs simultaneously and everything is perfect, especially for all the like mid-stakes, high-stakes guys that are playing all the 2Ks and 5Ks. Like everything is just timed perfectly. Cool. Yeah, they seem to get it right, but...
Cool. So what's your plans for like rest of the year? What stops you plan on hitting?
Going to Punta Cana in a week. We're going with my girlfriend. There's the ACR series that gets put on there. It's mostly a vacation. Just going to take a week off. We recently bought a house. Thanks to Steven Van Zettelhoff for that one. He won the W Coupe main, and I had a very nice piece of him.
Okay.
So he basically paid for a little bit over half the house.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to him. We'll have a plaque or something that says thanks. In terms of poker, I don't think there's too much poker. I'm gonna probably go play WPT Montreal because I love Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we leave for Australia December 27th for 5 months. We're going to Australia for about 2 months, and then Thailand for about a month. And we have 2 months of travel where we're going to probably go to Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and Japan.
So this is a non-poker trip.
Yeah, I'm going to Australia. I'll definitely be playing Aussie Millions, but after that, it'll probably be most of the relaxed life. I'm also getting into cryptocurrency day trading quite a bit, and waking up with China is a lot easier than trying to wake up at 3 a.m. when Europe wakes up for me, and then be at home for 6 p.m. when when China's starting to wake up.
Right.
So being in Asia to do all that stuff is also going to be great. Yeah, just kind of looking to relax and do other things outside of poker now. I kind of make jokes that, my 30th birthday party is going to be my retirement party, but trying to make things go towards that as much as possible.
Is that the goal? Just retire as early as...
Yeah, just freedom 30. I just want to go and do other things. And
okay, say you hit like that number. I assume you have a number. So say you hit that number. Are you gonna not trade currencies anymore?
I probably won't trade, or I won't day-to-day trade. I'll probably just hold my some long-term investments.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing is that I'm fairly diversified as is already.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm just putting in a lot of work. Doing research in ICOs.
What's an ICO?
Which stands for Initial Coin Offering. So, for TGEs, token generating events, they're basically companies, instead of raising money now through angel investors or through VC funds, raise money by sharing stocks through token sales. And there's a lot of garbage companies out there, and it's an unregulated market, and it's there's a lot of scams out there for sure. So doing your research and whatever is very important, and that probably takes up about 5 to 6 hours every day if I'm working that day,
right,
before I make any type of investment. But the nice thing is that you can make investments from as little as like $5,000. Whereas normally, if you wanted to invest in like a startup company, you're probably looking at like $10,000 to $25,000 minimum investment.
And
So
these
there's
tokens are usually in Bitcoin or always.
so there's different types of tokens. They get released depending on usually on the Ethereum blockchain. They're usually ERC20 tokens, which is just a type of token. But basically, they become tradable, and if you hold them, they so I've invested in some online casinos that are Bitcoin based, and they just pay out their dividends based on your token holdings and smart contracts. So
Okay, so
yeah.
how do you go about analyzing a company or a startup?
So there's lots of different formulas people use. People have developed their own. Some of my biggest important ones are the team that are working on the project. So people that have either had success in the cryptocurrency industry, people that have a strong programming background that is verifiable,
Wait a
people
second.
that
Are these startups like all like Coinbase startups or like they're trying to do other stuff?
almost all of them are now.
Okay, so you're investing in people who are trying to create their own cryptocurrencies or something?
That's yeah. So well, they're not trying to create their own cryptocurrency. They're just using cryptocurrency as a means of stock distribution.
Okay, and what kind? So they use it for stock distribution, but like, what does their company do? Like, how do they make money?
So anything and everything. There's online casinos. There's people that are creating decentralized
Oh,
web search platforms. There's people that are doing decentralized real estate investments. There's just it can literally be
okay,
anything for anything.
okay,
There's no and people there's lots of this that happens. There's literally hundreds of ICOs every month,
okay,
and realistically there might be three or four good ones every month, and that's and like nothing's a sure thing. Like things just move so fast in this industry. It's just really the tip of the iceberg, and people are like, oh, like it's too long for like it's too long ago for me to invest in Bitcoin. Like it's too late, and like that's just simply not the case. Like there's other spots you can put your money. Bitcoin is obviously like the safest
yeah.
and
Okay, so like,
most.
what makes you look at ICOs and be like, hey, I can do this? Like, what do you, like, why did you think you'd have an edge in this? Like, where does that come from?
I think the edge comes in actually making introductions, relationships, and partnerships, and being able to raise large amounts of capital. So, a lot of these token events that happen is before they actually offer to the public, they will have a pre-sale, and that'll be basically to fund their ICO and all their advertising and stuff like that. And they'll offer you a larger bonus
Mm,
before offering the public a certain bonus for like early investment to no bonus for like last day investment.
okay.
Um,
How do you swing that with,
a lot of the like equity comes in finding these companies and investing very early. And some of them are going to be long term holds for me, and some of them are going to be flips as soon as they become listed on certain exchanges.
how do you get, like, there, so a lot of these companies, you don't know them. Why would they, like, how do you get them to offer you before the public?
There's definitely ways of contacting them, and it's
Okay.
also not just me. There's definitely a large group of individuals that are in like a Telegram channel, and some people choose to invest in every single ICO that gets offered. Some people don't. I'm pretty picky with a lot of them.
That makes sense.
Um, but I mean, it's really just hard to lose if you're being offered a bonus that's 20% better than anything the general public is ever going to be offered.
Yeah, that makes lots of
A lot
sense.
of general public is investing in, even with really good bonuses, they're probably investing in, like a 1 year term to try and make like any type of significant money, whereas we can probably flip it in 3 months and make money on it. But yeah, it's the days of like putting in $100 and getting 5,000 times return are over. Like those just don't exist anymore. But there's a very good chance that you can make an investment and still make 50 times or 100 times your money in the span of a year. Um,
Sounds fun.
yeah, it's just like a lot of high risk investing stuff,
Okay.
and
So, what do you plan to do, after you hit your retirement amount? You said you're not gonna like trade crypto or
yeah, I'll probably just have like long term holds.
but
I'd
but what will
eventually
you
like
do
to go
with
back to.
the majority
Sorry.
of your what would you do with the majority of your time? Because I just can't imagine you like just chilling at a beach like all day long and not
No,
doing anything.
I think when we come back, we're looking at actually getting a dog, which is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. It's not something that I've had the opportunity to explore yet. I'm slightly allergic to a lot of dogs, so there's going to be a big trial and error period.
Okay.
That's something I think at some point down the future we kind of want to have a family.
Oh, wow.
Um, and those are things that are still a couple of years away before we're seriously talking about that stuff. But it's something that like we've visited, and the dream is to be a stay-at-home dad and make lunch and drop the kids off. And um, so far, I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully, just get to be there for a lot of those experiences. Would also really like to go back to school. Um, Not really sure what for yet, but I think just like continuing to grow as an individual and as a human is pretty important, and
Uh,
something that doesn't necessarily drive me, but I think it fulfills a lot of.
I think
Uh,
a interesting route is so you'd have your tuition for school. I mean, you could kind of just create I mean, whatever it would be, and you could use that money towards like just hiring like the best coaches on like internet or in your area or even travel to like those areas. I mean,
yeah, that's definitely something that like is very possible. I don't know what that area necessarily is yet. Um, right now it's cryptocurrencies, and most of the very smart individuals in cryptocurrency are not sharing their information.
it seems like you just look at like, oh, crypto, I'm gonna fire at crypto, like, oh, ICOs, I'm gonna fire that. And
It's not a bad idea. It's an okay idea. There's ways to be better at it though.
right, I'm just curious what like why even start? Like what makes you think like you can start from like zero knowledge and like start like beating the game so quickly?
I think the game is not that far ahead yet. I think it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Um, it really just reminds me of like what poker was probably like when it just kind of started to boom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think all that is probably going to change when a major player like Amazon or Airbnb or somebody starts accepting some type of cryptocurrency or creates their own. Kickstarter is probably going to be one of the first that introduces some type of cryptocurrency, because they're probably losing hundreds of millions of dollars in the next couple of years based on the fact that companies are not like, if you want to start a clothing company, great, you're going to use Kickstarter. But if you want to do some type of like larger tech based industry growth, you can't use Kickstarter for that, and they're going to want to try and take back or acquire that piece of business. Um,
And how does crypto help them do that?
Well, if they just offer a very simple decentralized platform where, okay, well, I don't need to know anything about crypto. I just let them deal with everything, and people pay me in their tokens, and then they pay out in fiat. Then great. Like that's all I need as a startup because I just need the money to get going. But if Kickstarter just decides, or sorry, if Kickstarter decides not to do it, then a lot of these companies might look for other avenues or other platforms that are offering this at a smaller fee than Kickstarter is.
Right. That makes
Uh,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it's just there's starting to be competition in the platform area where Kickstarter used to just own everybody trying to start a startup. Like it just used to be not even close. This was like the best way to raise funds and money, and it just in a couple of years it probably won't be unless they change and adopt. So it's probably just a matter of time before one of the big players starts adopting cryptocurrency. I mean, already gambling sites are doing it. Um, that's one of the most notable ones. I imagine the adult entertainment industry will be one of the other first ones to start doing it.
Right. Of course. I'm
Uh,
I'm curious. So, how long ago did you start trading currencies, crypto?
I kind of started investing right after I won some money in Prague.
So, what was that, like 8 months ago or something?
Yeah, about 9 months.
And
Yeah, 10
and,
months, 10 months or so.
and how
I
long
I
did
haven't really been trading day to day until slightly after the summer.
okay. And
Uh,
do you think you like jumped in, felt like you could beat the game?
I was probably a loser, but ran really good.
Okay.
Based on like obviously like taking the easiest way to get better is to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and better than you at it.
Right.
And thankfully, I did have some friends that are very bright in this industry, that were doing quite well and that are still doing very well. And I've definitely learned a little bit, and then also ran really pure in like the first couple of spots I took. Obviously, there's variance, but yeah, just like being early investors in some like early projects that have already excelled, where you've potentially made 10, 15x on your money is it's hard to be a loser when you put in 5,000 and all of a sudden you have 50,000 in 3 months. Like it's really really hard.
Right. Yeah.
Even if you make like losing trades in some situations. Um, yeah, the day to day stuff is a little bit tougher because it's all fueled by China and a lot of panic and trends fall into that. Like the industry is just not big enough. The market caps aren't big enough where like if somebody decides they're going to start dumping something because they don't like the way of a press release came out, everybody starts dumping, and then it's just like a bloodbath.
Right.
Um,
And are the fees to day trade just like way lower than if you were trading just regular stocks and all that?
it depends on the size of your transaction. They're not low.
Hmm.
Depends what platform you use.
And is it regulated by anyone?
So some of them are, and some of them aren't. For the most part, they take information down in case they ever need to have it for government. Everyone is basically so far creating trading platforms that if something were to happen and government were to start regulating it, they have the pieces in place to be able to accommodate that and not be shut down. Um,
Right. Okay.
whether that's the future, I don't know. They're like I've definitely invested in some ICOs that are decentralized trading platforms where they're not taking that stuff where it's just purely a buyer and seller's market. But fees generally for day trading can be fairly high, I would say. I wish there was some type of a rake back program.
Right.
Would be really sweet. There just like isn't.
Right. So part of your like analysis day to day is one, moving up the chain in terms of like networking and meeting people to get like the inside info, thinking about which companies would start offering coins, I imagine, and then like looking at historical trends and understanding, trends that other like, I've studied like how to trade stocks for a while, but never did. But like, there's lots of trends and charts and
Yeah.
shit like that.
So
Go ahead.
there are indicators that are reliable and then some that aren't. Crypto trading is just like it's so different because basically it's like trading penny stocks almost, but
Mm-hmm.
it's it's obviously like on a larger like dollar scale in terms of per stock value, but it doesn't really matter. Um, it's like trading penny stocks in some way because where like you're looking at like certain volume indicators or your RSI and stuff, but it's just very different because
What's
it's
RSI?
sorry.
What's RSI?
Um, it's the easiest way to describe this. Um, RSI is going to be like your relative. So it stands for relative strength
Indicator?
indicator or index.
Mm-hmm.
But it basically measures the speed of price, how it fluctuates.
Mm-hmm.
So when your RSI is really high, it means that something has been like purchased too much in too little of a time. And when it's very low, it's been sold a lot. So depending on like how the graph is looking, like you're going to use RSI as an indicator whether like this has been like everyone has sold like what they want to sell and like now it's just going to be start to go up, or like if you see that like something is starting to go up in value or price and you see that it's still below a certain level, then it might still be a good time to get in and make some money. Otherwise it could be an indicator where like, okay, I'm not going to be investing in this, like it's already at kind of the peak for this time frame.
Right. And you're actually not looking at like, I mentioned stuff about like doing like quantitative analysis and like of the companies or of the coins. That's not shit you do because you're just day trading. All you care about is like spotting.
No, so when I'm doing ICO investment, I'll definitely take a look at how their tokens are being distributed or how their how much like the advisors or the team is holding, whether there's like a holding period. There's also ways where based on like your bonus, it might be beneficial for you to based on whatever your bonus might be in the company, it might be beneficial for a token sale or a token generating event to be structured in a way that's different for people that are investing during the ICO period. So you just have to be able to like recognize the difference between the two and like evaluate that stuff. It's a lot of work and mathematics. Like there is like a formula that you can potentially apply. It's not like a proven formula or anything like that, but we can get into that later if you'd like.
Right. Yeah, I think I just lack like so much background knowledge to ask like, good questions about crypto at this point.
I mean, everybody's learning. It's the guys that are really like crushing it are, the very, very small few, but everybody thinks they know a little bit, and that's probably good enough right now to make money.
Right.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean,
It's just like the thing is that because the more money that gets put into the industry, everybody makes money.
hmm
Like as demand grows, like it's possible. Like at some point, there's gonna have to be losers, but right now it's just not us.
it,
Like it's just still so early.
you think it's a positive sum game? Is that what you're saying right now?
Currently, I think it is. Like I don't think like on a day to day basis, like the market cap is just continuing to go up.
Hmm.
So, and because tokens and things are being mined, there's more and more money actually in the like in circulation all the time.
Huh.
So currently it's a positive sum game. At some point when market cap is, very much reached, then, there are going to be like obviously losers in certain sectors, but right now it just seems really like hard
Hard to lose.
seems hard to lose.
Seems like a good time to get in. I don't know. I guess I was always interested in like day trading stocks and shit. I might like fire at like crypto for a little bit. Have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, do your own research, do your own work.
I'm actually kind of interested in traveling a decent amount for poker tournaments, but the problem is I really dislike playing cash, especially at like the 1, 2, 2, 5 stakes. So
Yeah, it's really it's pretty monotonous. It's hard to kind of be entertained playing 2-5.
yeah,
It seems like the games also almost never play that deep,
yeah,
and there's just not very much like three bet bluffing going on. There's not very much four betting going on. Um,
yeah. I think I'd
2-5
enjoy.
and 1-2 is basically like a measure of like who the best value better is.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
I can't stand it. I mean, I think I'd enjoy the bigger games, but like not being rolled, and I think there has to be a learning curve.
the biggest jump I would say is from 2-5 to 5-10, especially when you're playing like 2-5. Sorry, so like the five, like I'm referring to like a 5-10 uncapped game.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe if you play like the 5-10 at Bellagio and it's a $1,500 cap, maybe that learning curve isn't that big.
hmm
But like the 2-5 game, say with like a 1K or a $1,500 cap, jumping into a 5-10 uncapped game is like a big. It's probably the biggest difference that I can remember. Even this year, like when I played bigger, like maybe things like sizing, like pre-flop and flop sizings in the bigger games are like closer to like what Pio is telling you to do, but it's not, you know, it's not that big of a difference compared to some of the 5-10 games.
Right. Yeah, I just feel like cash you get into such different spots than you do online or even in the live MTTs I play. So,
For sure.
I,
There's, live MTTs like super frustrating too. It's like now now that I'm now that I feel like I have a larger skill edge, like I am much less likely to take certain spots live. And that's something that like took me a long time to figure out. Um, I used to just always like take the spot if it felt good,
right.
and now I'm very much more conservative about all the spots I'm taking. That's something that I think I just like picked up from like watching some better players play live. It's like how are these guys like always, kind of building a stack or at the end, and it's just because they're just like not taking all the like high variance spots. And I think
Yeah,
their ability to like take the higher variance spots like deeper is fine. Like it's good. Like they're still capable of doing it. They're just not doing it in like the end of day one where like you can either bag like average stack bag 2 times average or play on like day 1B. They're just like not taking that high variance spot. And like that's something that like you can definitely exploit, but it's not, like the edge just isn't like that big in those spots. Like the edge comes from sitting early, being able to take things seriously in levels 1 through 3, a bunch of that stuff where like you just have to show up and go to work right away. And that's where your edge is coming. And obviously, like the work that you've done and trusting it, but
Yeah, I feel very good about my game overall, but I don't know if I can just jump into a decent cash game and win right off the
yeah,
bat.
you used to play some cash, right? You used to play like some 1, 2, and 2, 4 on party.
I did. I didn't. Not on party, but like on U.S.
Oh,
sites
yeah,
like
U.S. sites.
Ignition, and ACR and all that.
Right, right, right.
I used to like back in the day play like 1, 2, 2, 4 heads up on stars and stuff. And that was really fun, but I'm
Yeah,
I'm not really a winner in the
yeah. I
games.
mean, most of the cash games are just like pretty dead. It's actually quite scary how good everyone is. Um,
Bots, man. I was talking to a dude who plays spins for a living, and there's just
that's got to be the worst job I could possibly imagine.
he really likes it. Apparently, the
Oh,
top guys
that's
are
got to be
making.
the fucking worst. Like, I just don't understand. Like, there's just like it's just like a solved game almost. It's like playing like single table tournaments. It's like playing a fucking sit and go.
Yeah, I think he makes like the top players are making like 5 to 8% ROI, and
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure they're doing like great. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of bot rings, and the bots are not only can they play GTO, they can also there's like these different they're adaptive to the population tendencies as well.
yeah, that sounds about right. So
Yes.
they just have like recognition software that's like reading stats and just like making decisions or like relaying decisions.
Yeah, I imagine what happens in game doesn't affect it too much rather than like the huge database of hands that's already in there that it's like
Right.
calculating.
Yeah, the bots and the high stakes, like apparently they're just like starting to infiltrate like even the high stakes games. Whether it's like a combination of uh, people being able to run software that is simply reading your screen, so they're able to read like the board texture and cards, and then just plug into um, like just developing a program that can plug into a running program on another computer. Like there's just so many different ways. Like it's really scary in a lot of senses. Where there's MTT bots out there. There's cash game bots. There's sit and go bots. Like people are just getting too good, and the software is just getting really really good.
Yeah. So I imagine you don't see a long shelf life for high stakes poker.
No, not unless like there's got to be some changes somewhere. Um,
Right.
there just has to be like some variation to the game, or like it's pretty tough. Like, yeah, I mean, live poker will always be there. I think online, like if people put in the work, there will always be an edge. Like there will always be people because of the variance. Like honestly, like look, I wanted 10K, and like I'm definitely not even close to the best player in that field. And obviously, because there's a ton of variance in the game, like people are going to take shots. Like it's just always going to be around.
Uh, yeah, so I'm curious, what is how do you plan out your days, or is there any type of routine or schedule to it? Because it seems like you're doing lots of things at once. You have
Yeah,
the
so
problem of like you can have as much free time as you want. You can kind of just do whatever you
that's
want. So I'm,
that's pretty accurate. So right now, we recently, yeah, like I said, we recently bought a house. So right now, priority is getting those things in order. So we're packing. So right now, I'm not actually playing almost any poker. Um, but I guess organizing my day, I just organize it in priority settings. So things that I absolutely need to accomplish today. So today for sure, like I know at 2 o'clock my girlfriend's getting home. I've got to be at the restaurant today for 4:30. So that gives me 2.5 hours between all this. I'm doing this, and I have to accomplish. There's probably about an hour and a half of packing I have to do today, and those are like must do things for today. Um, Tomorrow I am finishing up stuff dealing with banks and all that stuff. So for me right now, it's just like a priority list. When I'm not able to day trade on an actual day to day basis, I tend to move a lot of my digital assets into very stable um, tokens, or um, things where I'm not going to swing very hard, or I'm not going to miss like the big pump or whatever. I'm just going to, be able to occur whatever it is, the like 4 or 5% in the like week that I'm not trading. Um, yeah, I do my very best to wake up right around 3 to see what Europe is doing in terms of trading. I also do have like some alerts set on my phone if certain things hit certain prices. I get like a notification. Um,
and then 6 p.m. is like another time you're
yeah,
always
6 p.m. is like another tougher time where like at work I'm definitely like checking my phone very every so often, and I have a lot of alerts set up. I'll also just set up conditional sells and buys based on projections, and I'll set up some stop losses on short-term holds if I'm not able to be at the computer at that like exact moment.
right. Okay, so how do you set up like non-work stuff? Like how, like even planning this trip, like this travel trip. Like, for me,
Um,
planning shit is really hard. I don't.
Yeah, planning is really, really, really hard for me. Um, I've kind of just prioritized all my real life things as a priority compared to poker and secondly cryptocurrency. I guess like cryptocurrency comes before poker for me at the moment. Um, but I've basically, yeah, like real life things, like if I want to go do something, or if like, hey, my friends are going out tonight, I want to go do this, great, I'm gonna do, like, this becomes a priority now for me,
Mm,
and I'm gonna go do that because that makes me happy. I don't feel like, also I'm not gonna sit online and play like this past Sunday, like I didn't play because I went to a family friend's place for dinner. um it's just like I can pass up these like equity spots now where real life is kind of taking a bigger, larger focus. Like we have to go furniture shopping. Like this is something that we actually need to do, or we're going to move into a house with like very little furniture.
right.
These are just things that I'm now able to just like kind of put work to the side and not worry about it too much. Something I actually like need to prioritize a little bit more is probably my own health. I've just like
Oh,
been
right.
pretty lazy these
The weight
last.
loss goal.
Sorry.
You got the weight loss goal there.
Yeah,
Brought
lots
that.
of weight loss goals. I still got to lose about 43 pounds by the end of the year.
That's a
Uh,
lot.
it's a lot, yeah. And it's just something that like it's really hard to eat and drink well when like you have success doing things. Like all you want to do is go out and like have drinks with friends or go out for like nice dinners. Um, finding the time to like meal prep. Like this is something that I'm actively searching for someone to meal prep properly for me and deliver me meals like 3 times a week. So like 2 to 3 days worth of meals. And just like nobody exists in my city that does this on like a scale where they'll meet like my like dietary restrictions or wants, and will be not priced like $500 a week, and it's hard to tick off all the boxes. um, Basically what I really need is a personal assistant for like 20 hours a week. But
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have one already.
yeah, it's something that like might happen in the future, but right now it just seems like it's a leak, even though it probably would save me money long term.
There's a 2+2 thread if you plan on going like your own route of like foods you can cook in big batches that are good for you.
Yeah, I've been like I've done a fair amount of like the research myself, and it's not so much that, it's just finding the time to do it.
Yeah.
It's literally just there's not enough hours in a day, and I enjoy doing so many other things more than I would enjoy cooking for like 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
Um,
I thought you really enjoyed cooking. I assumed you did at least.
I do. I don't mind it. There's just so many other things that either take priority or I need to like accomplish first before I'm able to take 2.5 like straight. It's also the fact that it has to be like straight. It's not like I can do like 30 minutes now, 30 minutes later. Um, and like do things in between. It just I have to do like a large amount all at once, which is very hard for me to like set time to do. And maybe it's time to like quit the job and see what I'm able to do, because I don't have to spend those 12 to 15 hours a week at work. But I have a feeling that if I'm not, I'm just going to end up doing basically nothing, or like playing poker, or like doing research anyways.
Right. And is the prop bet for a lot of money at the end of the year?
It's not. I'm not, if I lose, I'm not going to lose a lot. If I win, though, I will win a significant amount. Like I got very good odds.
Okay. So what kind of diet are you going for? Or what's like the ideal diet?
So as soon as I get back from, so I was on keto this summer.
Okay.
and I've never felt better. Um, it's probably the best I've felt in 10 plus years.
What does a keto diet entail?
So keto is high fat, some protein, and no carbs. So you get all your fats through basically MCT oil, butter, and fatty proteins.
Hmm.
And once your body is deprived of all carbohydrates, it just starts burning fat. It starts burning protein or fat depending on what you put in your body. But once your body starts burning fats, you start losing a lot of weight and you feel great. Um, I was on keto for about 2 months, just before summer, all the way through summer, and honestly, never felt better. It's really hard to do, like no sugars, so the only things you drink are black coffee, water, and like sometimes you squeeze a little bit of lemon or lime into your water.
That part doesn't sound
Um,
hard for me.
you can drink tea,
Okay.
but not sweetened. Um,
Right.
it's
So,
just
so y-
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so you've been kind of like lagging on the application of the diet lately?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing: like once your body is in ketosis, it like reaches the state where it's burning fats, but if you have carbs in a day, like your body gets out of ketosis and then it takes time to get back into that state. So if you can't really have a cheat day, because if you have a cheat day, your body just leaves the state of ketosis and then you're not burning the fats off as you should be to like do have proper weight loss.
Right.
So it really is just like a full out commitment. And like the hardest thing for me is like obviously I enjoy going out to eat. I also enjoy drinking. And you can't really do either of those two. It's very hard to go out and eat a keto diet, and it's very hard to not drink
Right.
when all your other friends are drinking when you're going out. So
So, are you at the point where you're just not losing weight at all anymore, or
I'm
what?
just not losing it fast enough.
Fast
Start
enough to win the bet, or fast enough for like your own personal interest?
fast enough to win the bet. I'm definitely going to be losing weight consistently over the next little while. I have some goals where I like want to go and be able to do hiking and things like that when I'm in Australia and Thailand, and I think I'm working well towards those goals, but I'm not. Yeah, the weight loss bet is I'm probably going to lose.
Yeah, how many weeks do you have left? Do you have like 10 weeks?
Got 8 weeks or so.
It's the end of the year, so you should have it's the end of the year, right? That's more than 8 weeks.
Yeah, but my weigh-in is like not at the very end of the year. My weigh-in is December 18th.
Okay, so yeah, you have about 8 weeks.
Yeah, I'm drawing like pretty slim to none to win. I'll probably win. Well, I mean, if I really wanted to, I might win one of them, which is to lose 40 pounds, and that one's doable. I'd have to lose 23 more pounds.
Yeah, that seems doable. That's like
Yeah,
three
that
pounds a
one's
week.
doable, but it's like if I win that one, I might be able to like break even. I think, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like you would want to win the other one. Like the things you would have to do to win the other one seem
yeah.
kind
Now that I'm in this position, I probably don't want to do the other one, even though I do have like a fair amount of weight to lose still.
of. Hmm.
Like it's it doesn't seem like it's impossible. Like I should probably be able to do it, but it's very going to be very very hard.
Right.
And I'm going on vacation for a week, which is going to be really tough as well.
Right. So your options are like either keep this diet or find one that's more compatible with your lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up going back on keto because I can't remember the last time I was like as focused and felt as good on like 5 to 6 hours of sleep as I did all summer.
Right.
It's going to be a lifestyle change for me. I'm just going to have to like give up the drinking and going out to eat, which is okay. I'm okay with that. I think I did it for 2 months and I felt great. So
Um, yeah. I mean, can you go out to eat and like there has to be keto options when you go out to eat as well.
there are some. I mean, steakhouses are like the first one. Like you can have fatty proteins, so I can go and eat a bunch of steak with like broccoli or greens. I can go, I guess, at like your normal like I don't know, like I can actually go out for breakfast. Breakfast is probably the best meal you can have in keto because you're allowed to have all the bacon and eggs, avocado, and just like fatty things in the morning. Coffee is great for you.
Solid.
Yeah, so like if I could just have breakfast every single meal of the day, it'd be great. Yeah, you can have a bunch of dairy. Something that makes keto pretty tough is that I'm allergic to seafood, and seafood is like a big component of keto. Like a lot of people eat a lot of tuna and salmon, and I
Right.
just can't. So like my protein intake is literally like just red meats and chicken thighs,
Okay.
which is pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
It's like not that healthy of a protein intake.
Are you on do you do bulletproof coffee?
Yeah, so I've done it before. When I was on keto, I was doing it. Um, I don't personally like it, but it made me feel great. So again, it's something that I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm definitely like a firm believer in it.
Cool. Well, I like to wrap up with just like some like just like basic questions about like
Yeah, sure.
shit you're into. So like what is your morning routine, if any? Do you have a morning routine?
Currently, it changes a lot, but currently it consists of waking up sometime. Well, I wake up at 3 a.m. for Europe. I probably pay attention for about an hour, hour and a half, make any adjustments if I need to, and then go back to bed. And then I wake up at about 9 o'clock and drive my girlfriend to work. It's about a half hour, then grab a coffee on the way home. Um, Again, I'll check the markets when I get home. I will potentially do some research at that point, and depending on if I have plans for lunch or if I need to run errands, I try and run errands between the hours of like 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. seems to be a pretty good time. Um,
All right. Yeah, that's good.
then yeah, and then I guess my evenings currently consist of being pretty busy, but I'm kind of someone that doesn't follow too many routines or like to make too many definitive plans. I like the spontaneity aspect of life, so I try and not fall into the same routine for too long.
Cool. And what are your favorite books, if any?
Favorite books, if any, as in pure entertainment purposes or purposes of
Mm,
education or
favorite fiction and favorite like nonfiction.
favorite fiction that I keep rereading is. I mean, it's gonna sound terrible, but I actually like really enjoy the Harry Potter series. I don't know why.
I read the last one. I thought it was really fucking good.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
I couldn't
I
enjoy
also
the
really
movie because the book was just so much better.
yeah. I really liked that entire series. Uh, what else? I really like Story of a Murderer by Patrick Schuskind. He's a German author. It's translated into English. Maybe I think it's like a early 2000s novel. Maybe a little bit later, somewhere around there.
Is it like a mystery? Is this, like, what type of book is it?
It is. Yeah, it's a little bit of like a thriller.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to 1 second here.
Okay. And nonfiction?
Nonfiction. I've read a lot of I guess like life coaching books recently, and I think there isn't one that specifically stands out. I think there's a lot of things that everybody is like kind of doing that is applicable or can be incorporated. Um,
Okay, so you'd recommend, why are you reading life coaching books?
I think it's important to kind of see. Well, first of all, I think a lot of the top like performers in the world, whether that be CEOs, athletes, um, just people that are doing the most with positive impact with their time, have done some type of life or mental coaching, and there's obviously a reason why they're as successful as they are. Um, and if that's something that I want to accomplish in life, I think it's important to emulate at least some aspects of what these people are doing because they're obviously doing it right.
Well, it feels weird to pitch you on a podcast, but I do teach people how to coach, and I'm pretty good at it. So if you're ever interested, just hit me up.
Definitely. We will, yeah, love to.
I feel really weird pitching my services on a
No,
podcast.
I know.
All right, cool.
For me, right now, the book route has been pretty good, just because I've been able to do it on planes or whatever as I've been traveling.
I've read a few, like coaching questions, I think was one. Like,
Sure.
what are some of the ones you've read?
I've done some work with Jared Tendler.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think of things that.
He's like a
Um,
mental game poker coach.
he's a mental game coach. He probably influenced the way I think of poker in like a lot of situations where I used to definitely have like some tilt issues, and I think I've like resolved those through him.
Does he teach meditation?
He kind of in some ways he doesn't teach meditation, but he like guides you through thought process, which is what I would have if I were meditating. I don't do meditation, or at least I've like attempted a couple of times and it hasn't been great,
Yeah.
so I just have not done it. But um, sorry, my girlfriend's calling me. I gotta take this.
Yeah, I mean, we could just wrap it up here. You good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
I'll give you a list of a couple things, and yeah, chat after and go over a couple. Great,
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. It was fun.
awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, send it.